On Tech News Today, Apple makes money by the truckload again. We've got their earnings report. Plus, Google's YouTube is getting into the TV show and movie business. And LG's got a new phone that performs an amazing new picture trick. We'll tell you all about it on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, April 28th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Shutterstock.com. With over 52 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 20% off image subscription packages on your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code TNT415. And by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. With one simple integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to BraintreePayments.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. My name is Mike Elgan. Our co-anchor today is After Nine's content czar, Joe Panettieri. What's up, Joe?
Tell you what's up. I had a rather incredible weekend. Do you want to ask me about my weekend, Mike?
No. Yes, I do. What happened? What did you do this weekend?
I went to an Animal House cast reunion up in Massachusetts.
Wow.
Flounder was there. Babs was there. Niedermeyer was there. It was rather incredible.
Wow.
So that was my weekend. It was great.
And Belushi was there in spirit, no doubt.
Well, Belushi's wife was there. How about that?
Really?
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And half the people there wore a sweatshirt that said college.
College.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I had a very upsetting morning because I got an email and I have pop-ups, that show me the subject heading of my email and it said, Apple Watch is here. Unfortunately, they meant the Apple Watch, not my Apple Watch. So my Apple Watch is not here. And I don't really care about the Apple Watch. If it isn't mine, I don't care. And they're sending this email as if nobody had heard, You may not have heard that the Apple Watch.
Mike, I heard the gold ones are hard to come by. Is that the one you're waiting for?
Yeah, I'm going to be waiting a long time for that one. But there's also a really interesting report that was picked up by Cult of Mac, but it also went to one of these hardcore sites where they do serious evaluation of screen quality. And they determined that the Apple Watch Sport has the highest quality screen, even higher quality than the Edition, because it doesn't have Sapphire, and there's a bunch of technical reasons for that. And it's just slightly better. But I thought, that made me feel warm and fuzzy because, of course, I got the cheap one. So I'm really happy about that. Well, anyway, let's jump into the news. Speaking of Apple, Apple beat expectations for their first quarter earnings call yesterday. The company reported revenue for the quarter of $58 billion and profits of $13.6 billion. They sold 61.2 million iPhones in the quarter. Another blowout, beat not only analyst expectations, but their own. Really interesting earnings call. Shara Tibken is a senior writer for CNET and joins us now to talk about this blowout earnings report. Welcome to you, Shara.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. iPhone revenue growth is up 55%. That's incredible. The phones are more expensive than they used to be, and they sold more of them than they used to sell. Why is it that Apple is the only company that can sell a lot more phones even as they charge a lot more?
Well, a lot of it that they're benefiting from right now is China. So the people in Asian countries tend to gravitate towards bigger screen phones, and Apple, before the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, only had smaller screen phones. So there was a lot of pent-up demand for their bigger screen devices, the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. It also was the Chinese New Year in February, so they got a really big bump from that.
Hey, Shara, did Tim Cook and anyone else from the Apple team provide any clues about what they see for the future of Apple and iPhones, or are they playing it close to the vest in terms of what they see next with the iPhone?
Yeah, I mean, Apple always plays it close to the vest. They're never going to give very many details about what they're doing. People always ask, I think there was a question this time. It's their R&D has been kind of high for them recently. So people are asking, what's behind that? What are you guys investing in? What are you working on? And they just kind of give throwaway answers like, oh, we're always working on stuff. You have to wait and see.
Now, of course, iPhones were shattering records. Their Mac division shattered records. What happened with the iPad?
Oh, man, it's been really tough for the iPad. I think this was the fifth quarter in a row where sales fell. It was off more than 20%, which is just really a huge decline. Part of the reason is people are buying the bigger screen phones, so you don't really need a second tablet or, a second bigger device. There's also the reason that people, if you bought one of these a couple of years ago, you really don't need to upgrade. So people are just holding on to these for a really long time. Like, I mean, I was using the iPad 2 recently, and it still works fine. So, a lot of people are finding that they're not needing to buy the newest iPad because the changes are not drastic enough to get you to upgrade. So there's just, a lot of factors. Also, people are buying Macs instead of iPads as well, which is interesting because everyone thought, the iPad was going to kill the PC market.
Now, Shara, a quick thing. It seems to me that this decline, let's look at two products. You have the iPad, which is, declining for all the reasons you mentioned. And we have the Apple Watch, which is garnering all kinds of attention and sales, of course. And this really, I think, is the moment when it's officially no longer Steve Jobs' Apple. The iPad was really Steve Jobs' baby. He was directly and personally involved in the development of the iPad. And the Apple Watch is something he wasn't involved with, really. It was really a Johnny Ive driven project within Apple. And so now we're entering in a world where the iPad is on the decline, the Apple Watch is on the incline, and it's just a whole new Apple. And it has to be said that Steve Jobs has been gone for many years now, and it's really Tim Cook's and Johnny Ive's Apple.
Yeah, it really is. And it was really important that Tim Cook actually showed that Apple continued to innovate and that that they can make products that really change people's lives. They hadn't done that since the iPad. So the Apple Watch is really Tim Cook's stake in the ground for this. We kind of have to be cautious, though. We don't know what sales are like, and they're not planning to break out sales numbers for the Apple Watch. So it's really hard to gauge, how well this is selling, how well it's doing. Relative to iPhone is still, the past 2 quarters, it was 70% of their revenue. So it's really important for Apple to be able to expand and have another strong market. And we'll just have to see if that's going to be the watch.
Hey, Shara, it's interesting. Some of the thoughts you've shared directly parallel me as a user. So as soon as I got iPhone 6 Plus, I stopped using my tablet. I still have the original iPad, but I'm a MacBook Air and iPhone 6 Plus type of person. I may become an Apple Watch guy. We'll see. It's too early for me to say. Did Apple give any clues in terms of how they're dealing with the backlogs of Apple Watch orders? Now, I don't think they've said how many they've actually built, but have they said anything about ramping up production to just meet the orders so far?
They said they're doing everything they can to meet demand and that they're sending emails to customers saying that they're getting their watches sooner than they were supposed to ship. What they said was they think by late June, they'll be able to have enough supply so that they can start selling this in other countries. But I mean, right now, if you order an Apple Watch today, you're not going to be getting it until June. And I think even one model is pushed to July. So, it's still going to be a little while before things catch up with how many people want these.
And on that depressing note, we bring this segment to a close. Shara Tibken is at cnet.com, and you can follow her on Twitter at Shara Tibken. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shara.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Got more news in a sec, but first, let's talk about Shutterstock.com. Let's talk about radically improving the visual quality of your website, your blog, your commercials, your whatever it is you're doing, whatever project you're doing. You can get brilliant photography, not just photography, but also videos and illustrations and vectors, all kinds of different media. Leo was telling me the other day that on House of Cards, those big sweeping shots of Washington, D.C. that look so polished on that show, or actually they just downloaded those from Shutterstock. You can have that quality of imagery yourself at a very, very low price, and you have tons of pictures to choose from, 385,000 images, not total. That's how many new ones they add every single week, and they're super easy to find because their search tools are perfect. You just search for anything you want. You can search for types of people, the number of people, the emotions expressed in in the pictures. Whatever you want to look for, we're here the video. We're looking at happy girl at school. That's going to bring back probably 1 million images. And there we are. Look at all those happy girls at school. And it's just a fantastic service. And again, the search is so easy to use. And you know, you may think that there are just too many choices and you want to spend some time thinking about it. And that's why they have this really great Lightbox. You can just download them into a Lightbox. It's just a container where you can just, as you scroll through, you can just say, oh, I like that one, I like this one, I like that one, I like this one. And then you can compare them side by side. And you can share those Lightboxes. So if you're doing your work collaboratively, you can have your team look at these pictures that you've put aside in the Lightbox as well. It's such a great thing. And of course, if you have an iPad, you got to try their iPad app. Their award-winning iPad app is just a beautiful way to experience Shutterstock images and videos. You know, and to try Shutterstock, you don't need a credit card. Just start an account and begin using Shutterstock, and it'll help you imagine what your next project could be like. And you can even save some images to the Lightbox to review later once you decide to purchase. Use the offer code TNT415, and new accounts will receive 20% off image subscription packages. That's Shutterstock.com, and for 20% off on new accounts, use offer code TNT415, and we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Google's YouTube is backing what are essentially online TV shows that will star major YouTube stars. They're also partnering with a major movie studio to create feature films. David Bloom is a tech editor for Deadline and joins us by phone. Hey, David, how you doing?
Doing okay. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Now, can you tell us about these series? What are the sort of ongoing series about, and who's starring in them?
Well, they've got 4 different series. They kind of cover a gamut of genres. We've got the Fine Brothers, who are massive. I mean, actually, all these are pretty massive on YouTube. They've got millions of followers, billions of views. So it's the Fine Brothers. It's Prank versus Prank. Smosh, which has a movie coming out in July around VidCon, and Joey Graceffa, who's the smallest of them, but still very, very big. They also are doing a deal on the flip side with Awesomeness TV, one of the big MCNs. No one wants to call themselves that anymore, but Awesomeness is doing it to do more movies like that Smosh movie with other YouTube stars where they have very small budgets. They turn them around in a very short time frame. It's mostly marketed by the YouTube stars themselves. And they go out on multiple distribution platforms within a month's time so they can really leverage that marketing reach. It's a really interesting thing, but this is all about YouTube feeling the heat in the month of its 10th birthday. It turned 10 about a week and a half ago. In the month of its 10th birthday, feeling a lot of heat from a lot of competitors like Vessel, Victorious, Cinemal Beyond, Icon Media, Vimeo, The Scene, which Condé Nast owns, as well as more traditional media, kind of stealing away all these big names, all these stars that they've created out of basically nothing, out of the ether. They're stealing away for these lucrative deals and more ways to make money, and YouTube is saying, okay, we're going to spend some of our money not just promoting these guys, but actually putting our money where our mouth is and financing more ambitious projects, whether it's film or an actual online digital series. Very interesting stuff.
Hey, David, in terms of the budget for this, just how much is, any clues in terms of how much YouTube is investing? And what about the quality here? You know, could we ever expect any quote-unquote big budget movies out of this effort?
I don't think that makes, I mean, they aren't talking budgets, but I think it's safe to say that, for instance, the movies that they're talking about making, quote, several over the next 2 years in concert with Awesomeness, whose CEO, Brian Robbins, really has this down. Awesomeness is owned by DreamWorks Animation and a minority share by Hearst. We're talking probably less than $1 million for these films. Virtually nothing on the marketing side, which is typically as much as 50% again of the cost of the project, because you've got these YouTube stars, you know, tweeting and posting and Instagramming and biting and everything else about the movie as it's being made, getting their fans all jacked up, and then they make it available over all these platforms. They don't spend a lot of money, so their vulnerability to a stiff is pretty small. It's not like they're making a $100 million film. But the side of that question is a higher production value, A, what fans want? They're used to a certain kind of look from their fans, and B, you know, they're on the right side of the technological curve in terms of quality. I mean, you can buy a 4K resolution camera for $1,500 now. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. The tools of production are in the hands of the proletariat to abscond with a communism term. So it's really interesting stuff in that regard too.
You know, I was pondering those strange turn of events of YouTube getting into this whole business. And at first I thought, normally YouTube and Google are technology companies. They bring technology to the foreground. That's what they have to offer whenever they approach other companies with partnerships and deals and so on. And in this case, what they're bringing to the table are YouTube stars. And I thought, well, that's an interesting currency. But then it occurred to me, Google is a leader in an area of technology called HR predictive analytics. And what that means is they have algorithms that look at what their employees are up to, and they can predict when somebody's going to quit and go somewhere else. And it seems to me that this is a case, not using that software, of course, but just this is a case where these stars are almost, they're essentially outgrowing YouTube. They're such big stars. They're bigger stars among younger people than TV stars and movie stars and even singers are to a certain extent. My theory, my working theory at this point is that they're doing this in large part to keep these stars with YouTube. Does that make sense as a theory?
That is not only a theory, that is reality. They have to. The competition is so stiff right now. What's happened is YouTube's the only platform that actually pays its stars something. I mean, they give them a 55% stake or share, and that's great, but then that often gets shared with the multi-channel network that supposedly brings in higher value or higher CPM advertising to help finance all that. So they make some pretty good money, particularly if you're a kid who's used to working out of his back bedroom or whatever. But all these kids, as they're starting to grow up, they've got millions of followers. They're passing puberty. They're getting more ambitious, creatively speaking. The opportunities are there. And, I mean, I'm writing a story that's going to post in about 4 minutes that Jenna Marbles, one of the biggest stars on YouTube, has just signed with CAA, the biggest agency, talent agency in Hollywood, because she's got her hands in a whole bunch of different stuff. She's got an excellent serious show that she hosts every week. She's got a digital series that she's on with Connie Masterson. She's got another show a digital series that she's producing with James Patterson, the big best-selling author based on his Maximum Ride novel. I mean, she's already branching out beyond YouTube, and that's only going to increase for these stars. When you have an audience like that, you have value. And brands are figuring that out, and other companies are figuring it out in lots of different ways. And YouTube is not stupid. They know that they've got to try and keep some of these stars here, because those are the vanguard for all those millions of wannabe stars. They pull in views, they pull in people, they pull in high-profile audiences at a time when we're in the middle of the upfronts, the digital new fronts. All these digital sites are trying to get advertisers to pay more money for their programming. Well, YouTube's already got these guys. They need to keep them.
Hey, David, has YouTube said anything about the international play here? Are these stars mainly the viewership and all the analytics? Does it mainly say, hey, this is a U.S. trend? Or are we seeing stars go global? Or are we seeing certain countries really jump onto particular stars?
Well, I would say that the single biggest star on YouTube is PewDiePie, who's Swedish. And he writes about games, and he's kind of wacky. But he's got like 35 million. I don't know where it is this week. It changes. It's like those billboards, those live billboards that show how many people died of smoking this week, and it just kind of keeps ticking up. Ding, 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 ding. That's how it is with him and followers. So he's huge, but he's from Sweden, and he writes about GameSpace. GameSpace is huge on YouTube. That's an international thing, from Japan to Europe to here. Other things don't travel necessarily as well, but then we're seeing stars in music who can travel all over the world. We're seeing stars in the game space and a few other areas. Michelle Phan, I think, has an international following in health and beauty, and that travels really well. Some stuff travels better than others, and there's clearly lots of opportunities overseas for YouTube. I mean, it's got reach in most countries. It can't get into China, and that's a big issue. But there's a huge opportunities overseas too, and they haven't addressed that with these stars. I think so many of these guys are originally kind of U.S. homegrown. A lot of them are coming to L.A. to take advantage of the creators that are here that they can collaborate with. They can work in the YouTube space here in L.A. and for free to produce their stuff at a pretty high quality. But clearly there's a huge opportunity for stars in other markets overseas, some of whom have been able to travel. I mean, I think Psy, wasn't he a YouTube guy before he did Gangnam Style? That music, I mean, that's where people are coming from. I mean, and of course that great international star Justin Bieber is from Canada. So there you go.
Yeah. And W. Scottis 1 in the chat room says that PewDiePie has 36 million subscriptions as of this morning. We'll see if it's 37 tomorrow. David Bloom is at Deadline.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at David Bloom. Thank you for joining us today, David.
Glad to do it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, LG unveiled its flagship G4 smartphone about an hour ago. CNET's Roger Cheng joins us live from the event by telephone. Hey, how you doing, Roger?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Now, it looks to me like all the rumors were true. Can you tell us about the G4 and what surprises, if any, LG announced today?
Yeah, all the rumors are definitely true. There were very few surprises. That said, LG has come up with a pretty slick-looking phone. It's not the first to incorporate leather, but it's the first to do it in such a broad way, and that's sort of the highlight marquee feature. When you hold it immediately, the leather back is the sort of the standout feature. But once you start playing with it, you start to realize the camera is actually a vast improvement over the G3 and other competitors as well. So LG has put together a pretty great smartphone. It's just a matter of whether or not people will notice.
Yeah, to that point, Roger, any chance here to really compete on an even ground with Apple iPhone 6 and everything that Samsung's doing with the Galaxy S6?
I think in terms of specs, in terms of capabilities, this phone is definitely on par with those other devices. I mean, where LG really lacks and where it's lacked for a long time now is on marketing presence, right? Most people know LG from televisions or washing machines. They don't necessarily realize that they make smartphones. Now, the G3 last year was what I consider a sleeper hit. I think it sold a lot better than expected, and it quietly did well. And so it definitely gives LG a little bit of confidence. But in terms of sales, in terms of numbers, no, they're not going to be anywhere near the realm of Samsung or Apple. But they're sort of humming along. They're making slow progress, and their numbers have an upward trajectory, which is not something you could say about Samsung last year.
Now, the G4 goes on sale tomorrow in Korea. Is that correct? When can we expect it outside of Korea?
Well, we've gotten a couple of carrier announcements. Unfortunately, no specific dates or prices have been announced. But I imagine in the next coming weeks, the G4 will be hitting U.S. carriers shortly.
Now, you also toured the factory, correct, where the G4 is being manufactured. Can you give us any feedback on what was that like? That must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the highlight of my trip. I was out in Korea and had a chance to go to Pyeongtaek, which is about an hour south of Seoul. This vast digital campus, it's really the size of Disneyland, basically. And within it is this assembly facility, and I got to walk through the line and actually check out how these workers kind of assemble the phones by hand, which was actually a little surprising. A lot of it was done sort of manually and by hand with human workers as opposed to automated robots. And just sort of watching the phone go down the conveyor belt and slowly pick up different parts, the battery, the SIM card, various testing. And then these little robots that kind of came around, picked up these crates of phones and then shuttled them off somewhere. So it was definitely interesting to see the phone being built firsthand. And interestingly, it was the employees are mostly women. They said that they tried to do a line with all men, but production fell by 20%. So something to be said about girl power.
Reminds me of American Gangster. This is really interesting that they do this, by the way, that they actually manufacture their light on robots, heavy on staff, and they do it in Korea. That's got to be really expensive compared to doing it with robots in China like everybody else does, although that's changing because, of course, China, the labor costs are getting higher and higher. Now, let's get to one standout feature here, Roger. The G4's camera looks really good, but it has a really interesting feature called the color scanner feature. Can you tell us about the color scanner?
Yeah, it's this color spectrum scanner. It's a tiny little dot that's underneath the flash of the phone. What it does, it uses satellite imaging technology to recognize objects, and it scans the environment and sort of the color conditions, giving the camera, I guess, the most accurate photo possible. So a red apple will actually appear red when it's shot with an LG G4. And that's important because their display they boast is the most accurate in terms of color for displaying pictures. And I got a chance to look at it, and it's actually kind of remarkable how vivid, how bright these colors look on the phone.
Hey, Roger, what about the manufacturing process with the leather? Is there some sort of tanning process involved there? What is that?
Yeah, so what they've done is basically they've emulated the process that luxury goods makers use to manufacture or process the leather for their leather goods. So it's, yes, there's a process called vegetable tanning. Basically, they soak the leather in these vegetable dyes that are heavy in tannins, like the tannins you'd find in wine. And that, I guess, roughens and gives the texture to the leather that you'd find in a Gucci bag, or in this case, the G4 phone. And so it's that vegetable tanning process that actually allows the leather back to age and to change with time according to how you hold it. And sort of like how leather for luxury goods wear over time based on your usage. Not wear in terms of wear and tear, but actually kind of change shape and color, and it has kind of a worn-in look. That's what LG was going for with this process.
Really interesting phone, and thank you so much, Roger, for telling us about your experiences in the factory and also reporting from the event. Roger Cheng is at cnet.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Roger W. Cheng. Cheng is spelled C-H-E-N-G. Thank you again, Roger, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Facebook just updated its Messenger app to include video phone calls similar to Google Hangouts or Apple FaceTime. Matt Weinberger is a reporter for Business Insider and joins us to talk about it. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Now, if I've got Messenger on, say, an Android phone, who can I video call? Can I video call another Messenger user on an iPhone? And can I call somebody who doesn't even have the app?
No, they need to have the app. So that's kind of something that FaceTime still does a little better. But it works across iOS and Android, which is way better than FaceTime. And Hangouts does the same thing, but Hangouts is a little clunky on iOS especially, I've always found. So this is kind of a big deal, I think.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
It's going well. We definitely, Mike, I apologize, but we have to go on a side rant for just a second. Matt and I used to work. Matt and I used to work together, and we had a ball together. Matt, before I ask my question, just wanted to say, when you're back in New York, look me up. Sound good?
That sounds great. It's a plan.
Excellent. Video quality with this, and any clues so far in terms of what the video quality is and how it compares to other apps out there?
Video quality, so honestly, not a whole lot of information out there, but it's always been, again, anecdotal experience that video quality is important, but it's not the most important part of this. People just like being able to see each other. I think that the tech press can do a lot of hand-wringing over video quality, but at the end of the day, it's just about seeing someone else's face. So my guess is it's good enough for the 99% of people.
Now, I think that you implied from your earlier answer that you can't really do video calls from a desktop PC. You have to have the mobile app. Is that correct?
It's my understanding that you're able to do it from the browser to the app, but there's no standalone desktop app like I'm calling it on Skype right now, which is a separate program entirely, but you have to be using Messenger on Facebook from your browser, which actually is kind of a hindrance, especially if you're working somewhere where Facebook is blocked. So that's not great.
Hey, Mike, excuse me, Matt,
I'll answer your question, Joe. I'll answer. Why are you ignoring me, Joe?
Well, all right. Any clues so far, Matt, in terms of how successful Messenger voice calling has been so far?
So they say that voice calling on Facebook Messenger is 10% of all mobile-to-mobile internet phone calls, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that includes Skype, that includes Google Hangouts, that includes anything else where you can make a phone call. I think WhatsApp does the same. It's a huge market, and Facebook has a solid 10% of it. So adding video calling is just a logical next step for them.
Matt Weinberger is at BusinessInsider.com now. You were recently at Computer World, but now you're a Business Insider.
Right.
Congratulations on that move.
Thank you.
And you can follow Matt on Twitter at M_WEIN. Thank you again for joining us today, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Google launched something today in Europe called the Digital News Initiative. As part of the plan, Google will invest $150 million to help European publishers establish what they're calling more sustainable models for news. The initiative focuses on boosting revenue and audience engagement through better ads, video, apps, data, and paid journalism. That investment will boost 8 European publishers, including Les Echos in France, NRC Media in the Netherlands, El País in Spain, La Stampa in Italy, and Die Zeit in Germany, as well as the Financial Times and Guardian newspapers in the UK. Joe Panettieri, let's be honest here, this is a payoff for them to stop harassing Google about all the other stuff they've been harassing Google about.
Yeah, and it's more than that. I think that's part A. And part B is, digital destroys traditional media. And I think there's a lot of concern right now in Europe, as we know, about Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and others establishing standards and destroying legacy industries. And this is sort of a rounding error for Google. $150 million, write the check and try to silence some people.
Yeah, and this is also a case where the rich get richer, of course. These are some of the top publications in Europe. If you're not on that list of 8, well, great. Now you have to compete against Google money. Good luck with that. In product update news, Amazon today launched a new marketplace for business called, what else? Amazon Business. The new subsite offers millions of products, bulk discounts, and free two-way shipping on orders of $49 or more. The new Amazon Business replaces the old Amazon supply site for office supplies. Sounds like a rational change, Joe Panettieri, and I think this is going to be a welcome resource, I guess, for businesses of all sizes.
Yeah, I think this is a ginormous opportunity, just to put it bluntly. I was reading up on this, and they're actually like selling tractor parts on this, and they'll ship you tractor parts. And if you're a hospital, they will ship you white gloves for the hospital workers. It's rather amazing. They're doing for the business market what they did for the consumer market. Now, the big question for me is, can they do it in a more profitable manner than they have in the e-commerce market, where last week we learned that their cloud business, Amazon Web Services, is actually potentially the most profitable part of the business now, rather than the e-tail business?
My question is, can you accidentally order tractor parts with your Apple Watch through one-click ordering? So we'll have to check
if you get your Apple Watch.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. That's the only thing keeping me from ordering tractor parts. Well,
I'm going to use that weekly until your Apple Watch arrives.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. In government crackdown news, the South Korean government said today they're launching an investigation into Oracle over the bundling of new software into maintenance service contracts. The Korea Fair Trade Commission director also said that Oracle's requirement that customers pay for maintenance service for all Oracle software may be anti-competitive. The commission ruling is expected by the end of July. Joe, you know everything there is to know about enterprise computing and Oracle and so on. Is this a standard practice for Oracle to bundle maintenance contracts with their software?
It not only for Oracle, it's standard for enterprise software. So it's quite interesting that Oracle's the poster child here in terms of who Korea may beat up over it. But I think the rest of the traditional software industry, whether it's Microsoft with their enterprise accounts and SAP for their enterprise accounts, the list goes on. I think the entire software industry is going to be watching this one closely.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. Well, we got some big numbers for you coming up in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you mobile app developers about Braintree, one of our sponsors today. Braintree is a full-stack payments platform that makes it super easy for you to accept payments from your, for your app or your website. If you're a mobile app developer, Braintree is the best solution. If you're familiar, if you've done deep research about which are the best solutions, you'll know that Braintree is by far the best solution. It's used by companies like Uber, Airbnb, Hotel Tonight, Living Social, and Muntree. I recently started using Uber a couple weeks ago. And, doing the finance part of it, like plugging in my financial information, I don't even remember doing it. It was so easy. I just plugged it in, and that was the end of it. I don't even think about the money anymore. Now I just have the Uber pick me up and drop me off, and I get charged for the rides. That's Braintree working behind the scenes to make it super easy for me and super easy for Uber as well. And it can be super easy for you and your app and website if you're an app developer. Now, they have sophisticated fraud protection for merchants of every size, and this comes at no additional cost. Excellent customer service, continuous support, and, they help you solve the biggest problem in mobile commerce, which is mobile cart abandonment. People start to go through a process to buy something. They want to buy it, but the process is either convoluted or complicated. It's too much effort, and so far too many potential customers give up and go away. And Braintree will help you stop that whole process because it makes it so easy to buy stuff. You'll really cut down on continuous support on your mobile cart abandonment, and that solves a huge problem that just about every commerce site has that doesn't use Braintree. Now, Braintree gives you a full-stack payment solution and support for all payment types: PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin, Venmo, of course, credit cards, and more, all with a single integration across all platforms. And they have superior fraud protection, superior customer service, and fast payouts. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to BraintreePayments.com/TNT. And we thank Braintree for their support of Tech News Today and also helping to make my Uber experience so lovely. Well, in big numbers news, we got a big number for you here. The first one is 12. That's how many pennies Microsoft loses on every phone it sells. And that's just on the hardware, according to a filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. It doesn't take into consideration the costs of marketing, research, and other costs. That is probably less than I would have expected. And I know that they're making a big play for the future. But in my opinion, Joe Panettieri, you can back me up here or disagree with this, but I think that they're really not going to make money until they come out with that super high-end flagship line that everybody's been dying for them to come out. Not everybody, but a lot of people, a lot of Apple phone and Nokia fans have been dying for Microsoft to come out with a higher-end phone, not just these cheap phones. And I think that that's, Apple has demonstrated that that's where the money is.
Yeah, I'm all over the place on this one, I have to admit, because I was one of Microsoft's biggest critics when they came out with the Surface, and I just didn't understand why they were doing it. Fast forward to the President's Day, and I'm impressed with what they've done with the Surface. And now if you extend that thought process to the smartphone market, maybe they can make a run at it in certain niches, but I'm still so skeptical. I don't know if they're ever going to turn a profit here, Mike.
They're only 12 cents away. It doesn't seem that far from break even, I guess. All right, well, we got a really big number, and we talked about Apple earlier in the day. $194 billion. That's how many dollars Apple has. Unbelievable in cash. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Kyle Veach in Jacksonville, Florida, who posted this picture on Google Plus of himself watching Tech News Today with his sleeping son. He said that I put his son right to sleep. Well, I think that's good. There he is, conked out. As long as I don't put Kyle to sleep. How do you watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT so we can find it. Joe Panettieri, what the heck is happening at After Nines?
Well, next up tonight, 9:01 p.m. Eastern, 6:01 p.m. Pacific. You can check out our next podcast. That's episode 34. It's with the CEO of Huddle. And he really talks about what's going on with the future of enterprise collaboration software and cloud collaboration software and the related apps. So if you go to afternines.com and then check out our podcast area, you will be able to get to podcast 34 and check out that interview with Huddle's CEO.
Podcast 34. Very good. And you can, of course, follow Joe Panettieri at Joe Panettieri on Twitter. Thanks again for joining us, Joe, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, thank you. Well, you can subscribe to Tech News Today on Stitcher, or you can choose another way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. If you'd like to help us grow our audience, here's how you can do it. Just post a link to twit.tv/TNT on the social media site of your choice. Tag 3 of your friends who you think might like the show, or 10, or 50. With your recommendation to subscribe and help us grow a lot faster. You can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC at live.twit.tv or on the app or browser plugin of your choice. And if you're ever near Petaluma, come on in and watch us as part of our studio audience like these fine gentlemen right here, sitting here, enjoying themselves, eating turkey and drinking beer. It's a fantastic experience, so come on in. Just make sure you send email to tickets@twit.tv before you come in. You can also follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV, and you can follow me personally on Instagram. Just go to Instagram.com and find me at Mike Elgan with 1 E in the middle. Let us know what you think. Send us an email to TNT@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW and leave a message. And don't miss Tech News Tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific every single weeknight. And that is the Tech News Today. Thank you for showing up today. And this show was produced by Jason Cleanthes and edited by Anthony Nielsen. My name's Mike Elgan, and we'll see you tomorrow.